This is a channel that follows up to the previous one, which would have been channel 5, I believe. In that channel, the grandmothers talked about ascension. In reading the comments that have come back to the video, there were several references to, you know, as we're going through this remembrance process, why is the oscillation so deep on one end and so high on the other? Another question had to do with, as we're going through the ascension, and I really think they're related, as we're going through the ascension process, why is it so hard in the physical? And then there were other ones, but they pretty much all kind of, that was the general theme. And so today, in response to that, the grandmothers began another channel to help clarify. And one of the things they were talking about is, as we go through this remembrance process, they said to me, we must realize that the whole universe is going through this remembrance process. So it's not just something that's affecting human beings, it's affecting the earth, it's affecting the cosmos. So the whole universe is going through a process of remembering itself back to source. And this is all happening at a cellular level. Now, to understand the grandmothers, the context of the grandmothers' teachings of cellular memory, we have to go back to some of the old channels in which the grandmothers were saying that we are used to thinking of the mind in our culture as existing in the brain. And the grandmothers say that the mind exists in every single cell in the body. And if you think of the brain as Grand Central Station, then that may be a better way of identifying what's happening in the brain, in the sense that all of the cellular memory that exists throughout our body is then channeled through the brain. In other words, and that's where it gets then, you know, we create our responses to what the memory is from the various stimulation. And the grandmothers say that at a cellular memory level, everything is memory, because there is nothing new in the universe. That the only thing that has happened in the universe is things have, if you can think of dimensional shifts where things just fold. So time isn't really a wave in their teachings. Time is really like a folding of dimensional foldings, if you will. If you were to take a stack of dominoes and line them up, and you know how they fold when you hit one and they all fall down slowly, and then you can hit it on the other side and it'll come back. Well, that's kind of how it works in terms of our memory, so that it's related to these folds. Now, what happens when there's a major shift and time changes as we know it? Now, we'll talk more about time and space again, but time in this dimension, as we understand it, when it folds, and that's what we're used to seeing, time folds, and when time folds, everything happens. Physical form changes, earth changes, poles shift, all these things happen. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is so that we begin to relate that whatever is happening to us, there is a physical manifestation of that in the earth and in the cosmos. So even now, when we talk about time speeding up, the vibration increasing, all we have to do to really get a sense of this is to recognize that even the pulse of the sun is increasing. And that increase is coming from the energy that's coming into our sun, into our solar system, that even in the universe there is a quickening or an increase in the pulse. So now let's go back to why we're talking about oscillation. So as we come to a conscious point of remembrance, all right, a conscious point of remembrance, what happens is that's like a spark. If you think of electricity, when you have your house and there's a lightning hits the house, and that energy goes right through your electrical system and shorts things out, right? That's what's happening to us. So when we get one of these pulsing awareness, moments of awareness, when our remembrance is so strong, we may not be able to articulate it in words, but the feeling is so strong that it literally sends this rush through our body. So we feel it physically, and we feel it on sort of the etherical connection of it, because then we're like, whoo, and that's about as much as you can say sometimes. In that instance, there's like this flash of memory that we know beyond a doubt that we're connected to something much bigger than what we know, much bigger than what our history and our culture has acknowledged. Now, as we come into that awareness in that instant, then what happens is life comes up. Life in this dimension comes up, and it could be that we're trying to get a job, can't get a job, or we're behind in our bills, or we want to have more time to be creative and do the things that we love, but we feel we got to take care of all the responsibilities of life. And so then this extreme high that's just run through us, that connects us to a greater knowing, all of a sudden is pulled down by this energy of what we feel is necessary to survive in this dimension. That's the oscillation. And so we're used to this wave like this oscillating wave with a correlating one underneath. So we have extreme highs and extreme lows. We're kind of used to it on one hand, but in a time when there's so much light coming into the planet, this light is exposing so much more than we've ever believed, realized possible. So the point of revelation is so huge that we're taking in so much at a conscious awareness state. What is happening is, rather than the waves going like this, what is happening is the poles are shooting in on us. So rather than it going like this and then it kind of ride the high, ride the low, all this energy is converging on us in the present moment of awareness. So that at the same moment that you're having this extreme high is the same moment that you're trying to figure out how do you process that in the physical. So that's what is related to the teaching that will be coming forward shortly on ascension tension. It's the tension that's created as we come into awareness of ourselves as our God self, and the awareness that we're here, and how do we even make sense of that? How do we even enfold that into our day-to-day lives in terms of what it takes to survive? Now, what is really important here is this. The energy coming in, remember all this energy converging, not a wave going around and through us and out, but converging in, is converging into the heart center. And the heart, we talked about the brain being more like the command center, where the heart is what filters all things that are good, that are whole, that are true, and that hold the essence of love. Because it is the vibration of love, that's the only vibration that can match the energy. So if we're going to do something with this energy that's coming in, as we remember and we get pulsed up, the only way we can hold that and make it real in our lives is that it has to channel through the heart center. Now, in the heart center, as the pulses come in stronger and stronger and stronger, and remembrance gets bigger and bigger and bigger, what happens is we begin to make the shift in our day-to-day lives in living from the heart versus from a command center or versus the mind. As we make that shift into the heart, we go back to what we talked about earlier in the earlier channel. We become a part of this creation energy. And that's the true essence of all life, of everything that's ever existed in the universe. Its essence is creation. And the energy that drives creation is love. So as this energy comes in stronger, this convergence builds and builds in us, we will begin to outflow the creative pulse back into the universe. As that happens, what is depicted right now as reality in the world, which often is around how we live, survive, take care of our families, have our homes, our cars, that's going to shift. It's going to shift in the sense that not that those things won't be important, but how we access them now will flow from a different source. Because as that heart center is ignited, as that creative pulse is ignited, we will begin to see different ways, not just the physical manifest, how to physically manifest what we need, but we will find that what we need shifts, because now we're operating on a higher vibration. So what does food, clothing, and shelter look like at a divine source? So then so when you ask that question and you think about it from the mind of the heart, now what's that heart center, that energy of the heart center? We're not commanding how the energy gets expressed anymore. Now it is outpouring into our environment. So we begin to see, rather than the boundaries of our experiences, we begin to see beyond the boundaries into the interrelatedness of who we are, not only as an individual internally, but as we are in the outward picture. In other words, how we are interrelated to each other, how we're interrelated to the earth, how we're interrelated to the cosmos. So then how we build upon those things that will be created in the fifth dimension is now based on lines of interrelatedness, not based upon realities or pseudo-realities of individualization. Right now, it's important to understand that in the third dimension, the individualization of energy was crucial for us to build and to create, because everything was isolated. Everything existed in and of itself. In fifth dimension now, what is happening is everything is interrelated. So transportation won't be going and getting in a vehicle and traveling. Transportation will now be based on the concept of knowing where you're going, because that divine creation now sees into the world in a different way, and then connecting with an energy vibration that's based on what is created by the interrelatedness of this concept, and all of a sudden you're there. Okay, so it's quite complicated to think beyond the present moment. However, what's important to know is that things are shifting, and what things look like today will be very different as we come more and more into the conscious awareness that the ascension has happened, that we are already moving now, transporting into fourth dimension and some beyond. Okay, again, fourth dimension just being a bridge to the fifth, which is where we will settle for a while. And so today, what we really wanted to bring forward as the message is that yes, the oscillation appears to be extremely high in terms of high highs, low lows, but you got to remember, you've got fifth dimensional remembrance happening in a third dimensional reality. So there you go. That basically is it. The other thing is shifting from a concept of an oscillating wave that moves in and out to a convergence of energy that is moving from polar extremes of those two dimensions and coming into our heart center. And again, the third aspect of that is that we're now having no longer just a mental perception of the world around us, but a heartfelt creative pulse or pulsation now, in the sense that our heart is going to know before our mind, the mental mind. Now, I'm not talking about the cellular. The cellular memory never changes. The cellular memory never forgets. Okay, but it's the isolation of the cellular memory from the mental memory that has created the separation. So what is happening now with the expansion of the heart center and the mind, the realization of the brain as command center versus the mental housing of our memory and how all things work, as that's shifting now, we're going to relate to the world very different, because it's coming from here. And you've heard many people, many authors, many speakers, indigenous wisdom keepers, all talking about the importance of shifting from the mind from the mind to the heart. This is why, in a moment of revelation, when so much is revealed, there must be ways to relate to that which is being revealed. And the mind, as we have defined it in a third dimensional reality, cannot conceive of it. So the quicker we make that shift from the mental to the heart, the quicker we begin to see these lines of intersection and begin to be able to create a world that's based on this interconnectedness and based on utilizing the energies and frequencies in a way that complement life, not destroy life, that add to what's happening and what is around us rather than taking from. And in that sense, it automatically creates an equalization, because there is no better than or worse than. There is no other. There is nothing outside of itself, because it isn't defined as a self. It's defined in terms of its relationship to the world around you. So the more you understand the world around you, the better you are able to move in a fifth dimensional realm. If you're still defining yourself as this physical body, as this I person, you're going to have a very difficult time dealing with these oscillations. The quicker we can look at ourselves as everything around us is us. We're not outside of anything. So anything that happens outside of us is happening inside of us, whether we're talking about something on the planet, whether we're talking about relationships, whether we're talking about shifts in the solar system that impact us. All of that is us. We are the mind of the universe. Our cells on a holographic realm are connected. There is no separation. This physical shell that we identify so closely with in third dimension has very little significance in fifth dimension, because the interrelatedness at a cellular level is beyond form, beyond form. So we're getting into an area that is more complicated than what we wanted to really deal with today. But we wanted to bring home to really give a sense of understanding what's happening at the extremes, how to begin to look at things differently, and more than anything to say, be gentle with yourself, because things are changing very fast, but there will come a moment when everything shifts like that. Because it only takes a certain number of people on the planet to get it, so that the mind of the universe then complements the mind of this dimension, and it all shifts together. So with that, we say it.